Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Adulting 101. Robinson, how is everyone doing this morning? Thumbs up. Great. Well, I'm so excited to be facilitating this session on today. When I thought of real world, I may be dating myself, but I'm thinking of the reality show Real World with MTV. Even though we do not have a panelist of reality stars, we do have a panelist of some rock stars from some of the top companies in the US. So what we'll do, we'll be able to get everything going by introducing some of the rock stars that we have on the panelists today. So when I call out the company, if you would just unmute yourself and introduce yourself to the students. So today we have representatives from Accenture.
Okay, I know Akila is here as well, but I'll go first. My name is Kareem Jones. I am currently a technology analyst here at Accenture. I graduated at Georgia State, spring 2020. So I'm just out of a year out of my undergrad experience. I interned with Accenture summer 2019. I was offered a full-time for the following summer. So here I am, and I'm hoping I can provide any insight that I can for the fellow undergrads or the other undergrads or graduate students here as well.
Thank you, Kareem. Thank you for joining us today. And I think you have also a colleague with you, Akila. Am I pronouncing it correctly?
Yes, you are. It's Akila.
Okay. Good morning, Akila. Would you please introduce yourself?
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear.
Great. Good morning, everyone. My name is Akila Webb. I am a security consulting analyst here at Accenture. I graduated Georgia State August 2020. Kareem and I interned together at Accenture summer 2019. We both accepted the offer to come back, and here we are. Our goal here is just to help to increase, recruiting for Accenture. I remember when I was going to Georgia State, and I just didn't really see much visibility of Accenture on campus. So we want to increase that, and we want to get you guys over here at Accenture because it's a good place to work.
Great, great. Thank you so much. And next, first of all, do we have any more representatives from Accenture on the call today? Okay. Next, we have Koch Industries.
Hey, Josiah Owens here. I think I might be the only rep for Koch, but happy to hold it down.
Okay.
I am a former Panther and I guess a double Panther now. I graduated with my undergrad from Robinson in 2017. And as of August, I'm back again for my MBA with Robinson currently now. So enjoying that program, but I am a HR professional for Koch Industries. I've been there for about 5 years now and absolutely love getting to come back and talk with current students and soak up some of the information as well as a double Panther. So
okay. Well, welcome back, Josiah. And next we have representatives from Hancock Askew and Company, LLP.
Hi, I'm Jamaica Argue with Hancock Askew. So I'm a Panther, but I'm an Eastern Illinois Panther. So I guess I'll just ask you all to adopt me.
Okay.
I'm Chicago, so I've been in Georgia for about almost 2.5 years with Hancock Askew. I am a HR recruiter for our Georgia offices because we do have offices in Florida also. And so I'm glad to be here. Since I've come here, I've been participating in everything here at Robinson and I love it. So although I'm not an alum, I'm loving it all and I'm a Panther, so it's
okay. Well, welcome fellow Panther by default. And lastly, we have representatives from KPMG.
Hi, I'm Sarah. I'm with KPMG. I am also a double Panther. I kind of went backwards. I was in industry and then went back to school for my undergrad at GSU and then also did my master's in accounting there. I interned with KPMG in the winter of 2019 and then I am completing my first full year as a audit associate with them as well. So I'm glad to be here with you guys and hopefully I can shed some light on on how my journey has been thus far.
Okay, thank you, Sarah. Any more representatives on the call from KPMG? All right, well, let's get started. I'm really excited to be facilitating this session on today, because who doesn't need help with trying to navigate pitfalls and at least learn from others' mistakes, whether you're a recent graduate and haven't landed a job, or whether you're a recent graduate and just getting out there into your career field as a whole. So we're going to ask the panelists some questions. I won't call on anyone, so I'll just ask the representatives to jump in when you feel that you have input regarding the question. So let's get started. So what is the best piece of advice you wish you would have received while you were in school?
Happy to hop in on this one.
Okay.
So one of the things I wish someone frankly shared with me is the fact that you really do drive your career after college. I think there's a level of comfort that students have when you have an advisor, someone who can spend time with you to kind of help you plan your steps for everything after school. The reality is that's up to you. Now, while you can engage different peers, mentors to kind of fill that gap, you really have the responsibility to take ownership, and really are encouraged to do that well before you get out into the workforce. It only sets you up for success once you get out there.
I have a follow-up to that, Josiah. What were some of the tools that you used in order to help you to be able to navigate and take full ownership of your career?
Honestly, and this is going to sound like a nebulous tool, but it's real to me, it's conversations, relationship building. We hear it all the time in terms of LinkedIn, but beyond just setting up a nice LinkedIn profile, having conversations with people with zero motive other than to understand. I think being curious about spaces, especially if it's something that you're interested in getting into, just asking people, hey, tell me about your space. What do you do? I'm curious to understand, to build my own knowledge and context. And that's what has helped certainly me to navigate different spaces by gaining some of that context. And it helps to build relationships with people who you never know might connect you to your next opportunity along the way.
I definitely do agree with that, with having a background in recruiting. And I used to get flagged often for just a 10-minute chat, or either just asking me a simple question about my particular field of study. That is a great way to start the conversation. Kareem, what about you? Do you have any feedback or anything you would like to add?
I think it may touch on what Josiah, what he may have mentioned. It may not have been necessarily something that I wish someone told me, because I took part in it, but I would say, if you haven't heard this already, really take advantage of resources that Georgia State has to offer. For example, I knew once I got out of college, I wanted to get into management consulting, right? So I knew that beyond my courses, my core classes, I needed to set myself up with extracurricular activities that will allow me to at least be able to have that conversation in the interview. So I was a member of Digital Learners to Leaders. It's a program at Georgia State where you're assigned into groups to really solve some challenges that companies within the city of Atlanta may have to offer. Or I joined PACE, a co-op in Robinson, where you legitimately were consultants for a real company, again, solving real problems. I tapped into a cloud application course as a CIS major, where we use the platform Salesforce. I knew that that was an emerging platform, if not already at the time. So I knew I wanted to get my hands on certain things that I knew the industry would be requiring, or they would like to hear that I participated in my undergraduate career. So it may not have been something that I wish someone told me, but I definitely suggest taking advantage of what's there, kind of having a plan for yourself, where you want to be, and just try different things. You never know. Just being able to have that conversation, just being able to say, you know what, I did take a Salesforce class and I was able to at least start building an application on that platform. You're opening that conversation up to a whole new level. And I think that really benefited me graduating, going through the internship interviewing process, and then the full-time hiring process as well here at Accenture.
Everything that has been said thus far is definitely key. Jamika, did you want to add?
Yeah, I was gonna piggyback off Kareem and say that definitely sets you apart. So my major was accounting, and just being involved in networking, networking with the professors, networking with your career center, you know, being involved in any type of organizations that's tied to your field is going to be very, very helpful. And I've always said this and related it to even people I knew, that the people who didn't come to, you know, the Student Accounting Society or BAT events, or, you know, didn't go to any of the career fairs, didn't go to mock interviews and all the things that career services offers,
Right.
they ended up not getting positions by the time they graduated. And in accounting, that's like a very big, you know, thing for our industry, is to make sure you secure, you know, an offer before graduation or by the time you graduate. And a lot of those people who didn't, it was the people who didn't participate, didn't, you know, involve themselves during the time in school. And, you know, sometimes it's even as simple. I was talking to a student the other day, and I was asking, oh, you know, do you go to your football games, or do you, you know, like what other things, you know, do you do on campus? And he was like, no, I don't go to that stuff, you know. And it's like, it might seem like a football game, but you're supporting your school, you're getting involved, you might bump into somebody, you might network with somebody that you meet, and, you know, just those things really, really helps you. And I know professors, I had a professor fight tooth and nail for me to get me an offer with a very big organization. And I got it because he was like, no, Jamika, you know, and so you know, the students can also do those type of things, because once you're professors and people like Sherry used to be a recruiter, you know, like when you start seeing great students, you know, you can push those students to people.
Exactly.
Back them up on that. And so that will definitely, it can make or break you. I mean, you know, you can still be successful without those things, hopefully, but I definitely think that that's your best thing to do. And I wasn't told that in school, but just coincidentally, I'm that type of person that's always involved in a lot of things. So I kind of had that going already, but I definitely try to, when I talk to students now, I try to tell them, like, get involved in everything that you have the time and energy to do, because it will help with your networking, and just looking at your resume and seeing all the things that you're involved in makes a good look to firms and recruiters.
I think that's great advice. Great advice. I have a question that I would like to just shoot out there to anyone on the panel. Sarah, maybe you can give me some feedback. Give me some pointers on workplace etiquette for recent graduates. This is your first corporate job. You landed your dream job in a huge corporation, and you may just need a couple of tips on workplace etiquette for someone just starting out. Sarah, can you give us a few tips and feedback on how you were able to navigate?
Yeah, I think this is definitely an interesting environment, because coming into KPMG, I interned in person. However, when I came in full time, I was completely remote. So it can feel a bit isolating. Now that we've involved so much video and we have, you know, scheduled meetings and things, I would say don't be afraid to put meetings on the calendar. It's never too soon to build your network. Stay in touch with people. Make sure that you're building that impression, or that you know, you're a go-to person, that you make yourself available to those that need a hand. I learned throughout this last year that just because we're not together doesn't mean we're not together, so to speak. Right. We do a great job of doing like video meetings, or like if I need some help with something, I throw some time on a calendar, or I just DM somebody and say, hey, do you have 10 minutes? Try to be respectful of those on your team's time, so that, like, if they're available, send them a DM and say, hey, do you have a few minutes? I just have a quick question. Or, you know, look at their calendar and put that time on their calendar and be respectful of that. Learning boundaries with your own time and saying like, hey, you know, these are the hours that I'm comfortable with, because learning to navigate that cutoff between what's work and what's personal time is a tough adjustment. So you just kind of have to tell yourself, these are my boundaries because I have to have that personal time to recharge. And letting those boundaries be known. Let it be known what your career goals are. Speak up to those people that are in your network that can help you get to that point. And, you know, just because we're not together doesn't mean that you're not pursuing those goals that you have for yourself in your future. And there can never be enough networking. Build your network now, keep it going. Like the people that you meet and you talk to, you know, even if it's every once in a while, just reaching out and saying, hey, just want to see how you're doing. You know, this is my progress. I still have professors that I talk to, or, you know, email and say, hey, this, you know, I passed the next part of the CPA, or I did this, or I did that, or, you know, I think sometimes we get busy in the grind of corporate, and
Right.
time just gets away, but you'll never know who you make an impression on. And that always building that time to say, hey, I need to recharge, or like just stay vocal in what you need for yourself and where your future is. And it can feel isolating, but it's really not. Everybody's in the same boat. Everybody's there to support you, and use technology to your benefit. I've learned that over this last year, is technology is your friend in this new
Right.
corporate way of doing things.
I appreciate your feedback. So I want to hear from a few more other panelists. How has this changed with the present pandemic that we're in? How have you maintained your level of professionalism while working remote? Keela, I see that you're unmuted. Would you like to give us some feedback on how you're still maintaining that level of excellence and professionalism while yet working at home or wherever, just working remote?
Yeah, most definitely. I really wanted to piggyback off of Sarah's point of setting boundaries. When I first started at Accenture, I started at the top of the year in January. I was thinking, well, I'm working from home, so I can just work anytime. And no, don't think that, because people take advantage of that. People will definitely take advantage of that. So professionally, for me, setting boundaries was the number one thing that I had to work on, to make sure that I'm working my standard hours. And even if you're working with the team who's in a different time zone, still be firm on your boundaries and set your foot down on when you can do stuff, especially if you have deadlines and they're saying, oh, you have to submit this by this time, but feasibly, you know, you can't do it by that time. It is okay to tell them that you can't do it, because you're the one that has to submit the work, and you don't want to submit lackluster work just to meet a deadline. So make sure that you tell them and communicate, most definitely. Definitely even over communicate at times when you're uncomfortable with doing a certain project, if you're uncomfortable with somebody on your team, if an assignment that they give you, you're confused about it, you're not sure what the task or what the ask is, make sure to clarify and double clarify, communicate, and even over communicate, because you don't want to have any miscommunication, and that's going to look bad on your part, and especially in front of the client. So we don't want to have any of that.
That's great. Anyone else?
Yeah,
Go ahead, Kareem.
Wanted to add to that, especially when you're experiencing tasks or deliverables that are challenging. Really, and I had to learn this, don't be afraid. You're going to hear this, but don't be afraid to ask questions, mainly because so many times in a day-to-day, in a professional, whether it's my supervisor or someone above me, they have challenging deliverables, challenging tasks that they're trying to work on day in and day out. So it's oftentimes that the question you may ask is something that they know they can answer, right? And they welcome that opportunity. They welcome, you know what? I got this one. And let me shed some information on somebody that, you know what, I was there at some point too. I had that same problem. And this is an easy answer for me to give. And it opens up not only the opportunity to have that conversation, but now you open up that path where, you know what, at least I know now I may have someone else I can go to in the future. Really don't be afraid to ask questions. They typically 9 times out of 10 may have had that same question they had before when they were at the position where you are. And 9 times out of 10, they want to help you and they want to be able to be like, yes, I answered something today and I know that was right, because throughout the day, they have so many, I don't even know. Well, let me defer to this person, right? That was one that they could have handled and they welcome it 9 times out of 10.
You make a great point. Definitely. It's better to ask questions and deliver what needs to be delivered as opposed to delivering data or information that wasn't even asked for. I mean, it's a trickle down effect and it wastes time as well. Did we have any more comments on that one?
I was just
Janika?
gonna offer,
Oh,
or I was just gonna offer one additional piece of advice. Remember that people are not mind readers. So rest assured, I want to bust that myth now that your manager, your peers, your leaders know what you're thinking. They absolutely don't. And if you leave room for assumptions, that could often come back to get you in the end. So like many of the panelists have already said, be forthright. If you have a question, the perfect time to ask is when you have the question, to go ahead and get it on the table. You never know, there might be a peer next to you who has the same question and might not be courageous enough to do it. And what you ask could inspire thought. It demonstrates your ability to take initiative and show thought leadership.
mhm.
So make sure that you lean into that. And then beyond that, someone gave me a quote that I stick with to this day. It says, read the room, but be yourself.
Mm,
And it's not necessarily about trying to assimilate. And if everyone has their camera off, you turn your camera off. It's more about listening, making sure that you're finding opportunities to get the context you need, but offer your feedback, speak up. Anytime you're invited to a meeting is an opportunity for you to add input, to create value, to walk away with something. So be sure that you take advantage of those opportunities when you are on a meeting, if it's virtual, to add something to that meeting while you're there.
These are definitely great points. And I would like to segue into this particular question. Are you currently working on any areas of professional development that will help you to advance your career? And if so, what are they? And what brought you to that particular decision?
Let me start off
Akila?
with this one. Yeah. So as I stated earlier, I'm a security consulting analyst. So my current project is doing ethical hacking on applications for a mobile company. And so I know a good bit about hacking, and
So here we have 23. Out of this 20,
okay.
Thank you for muting. Go ahead, Akila.
Yeah, no problem. So I know a good bit about hacking. I got a little bit of foundation in college, but I need, a little extra oomph. So I'm working on my Security Plus, and I'm also working on my certified ethical hacking. And it's just so I can have those certifications, not to increase, my knowledge at Accenture, but so I can take those certifications to other companies or be independent and do ethical hacking myself if I don't want to work for anybody else. So you always want to think of what you want to do personally, but not what you want to do corporate wise, because your career is your career. It's your life. It's how you make your money. It's how you pursue your passion. It's how you showcase who you are as an individual. So go for all those certifications, all the CompTIA ones, all of the CPAs, whatever your career is, go and get those certifications, because that solidifies you as a professional, not your job. Your certification solidify you as a professional.
That's great advice. That's great advice. Josiah?
Yeah, I'll hop in. One of my areas of development is more long-term than short-term. But I was fortunate a while back to have a conversation with a CEO, and he asked me, Josiah, who is on your list of board of directors? He said, if you considered yourself to be a business, because you create value, you just do it for an organization, who helps you make decisions? Who challenges you in terms of thought? Who's there to give you input or say, hey, I don't think you're going in the right direction, or I think there's an opportunity for you to do things different. And that really made me think about my own personal board of advisors that are inclusive of my peers who are in industry, inclusive of executive mentors who've offered their time graciously, inclusive of my spouse, I know I've also retained a therapist as well. So I say that to say, one of the things that I'm starting to spend more time in is building up that board of advisors. So as I'm getting ready to make a career move, or I have a question about a direction, or I'm struggling with a career challenge, these are the people that I can work through those things real time with,
Mhm.
and help me kind of navigate this journey, because I can't do it alone,
Right.
and no one can do it effectively by themselves. And the greater your team is, I think that helps you to make better decisions and get closer to where you're trying to go.
I think that's great advice, Josiah and Akila. Kareem, did you want to add anything to that?
Yes, so currently, as I mentioned, I'm a technology analyst, and what I'm currently working on, so as an analyst, and a lot of the projects I'm on are going to be related to the cloud, getting the client to the cloud in one form or another. And I definitely recommend taking, if any of you have time, there are, obviously there's AWS, there's the AWS Cloud Practitioner, which is a certification, as Akila mentioned. In terms of just building your certifications, it doesn't hurt. It could only benefit you. That's one I was able to pass a few months ago. That's what any one of us can do, whether you're a professional or not. I strongly recommend anyone looking into, if you're still in your undergrad or even in grad school, this doesn't require any major professional knowledge for you to get your foot in the door in terms of being able to speak about cloud topics, right? So whether that's AWS, Google, they all have foundational cloud courses that you can take now, because once I learned that as an analyst, these are the same courses that Accenture, that Deloitte, many of them, a lot of the certifications, they're pushing their analysts to take. So if you can take it before you got in the door, that could only help you. I'm also preparing for a Scrum Master certification. Again, these are roles that you may not ever want to be a Scrum Master, but you may get on an agile project that utilizes that framework. So if you had that understanding from before, it'll make it easier for you to get into that project. Again, these are things you don't necessarily need any other knowledge than what you have right now to get a jump on. And those are a few that I'm currently working on right now as well.
I do definitely agree with that. Continuing on with education, Coursera, Udemy, they are also great resources, LinkedIn Learning, and a lot of these corporations are really pushing that. And so they have a great understanding that technology is ever changing. So I do advise everyone on the call today to definitely take advantage of that. We're going to take a quick look at a question in the chat. And it's wanting to know what other activities, formal or informal activities, that you are involved in outside of work to stay social, to network, and to meet other people. Jamika, any feedback?
Mostly what I do outside of work is just being involved in the community. So if there's career day at some of the high schools or whatever schools, or any type of, we do a lot of different community service opportunities. So I'm always participating in those opportunities to give back to the community. And if we don't do something, I'm like, hey, could we do this? Thinking of different ways to really just get out there. Because I'm in accounting, one of my goals is just to broaden the knowledge of what accountants are, and trying to expand people, as they go into college to take that as a major. So I'm always looking for different ways to network with people and push, kind of push that objective of the industry the best way I can. And then other than that, just really staying connected with people that I've met in the past. I think that Sarah had mentioned this, and still reaching out to some of your professors and just, having conversations. I've worked for larger firms, and I still have, communication with a lot of people there, and just networking and saying like, oh, what's going on in your world? And, just asking different questions to stay knowledgeable, because sometimes you don't want to talk about certain things at work necessarily. Maybe you don't feel comfortable, but you do have those people that you feel comfortable with, that you can kind of network with and ask questions. And that's just kind of a few of the things I do to, just try to keep it up.
Okay. What about you, Sarah? Any other extracurricular activities?
Yeah, I'll kind of mirror what Jamaica said, and it's a lot recently with the 9/11 anniversaries. I did a lot of community events for, keeping that top of mind and celebrating those people that, sacrificed for us. And our firm does a great job of allowing us as members of our firm to take that time. If you're part of a firm or a company that allows you to take time off to serve your community, do it. Take all of the time they give you throughout the year. That's what it's there for. And you never know who you're going to meet. Like, I met a guy we were doing a Beltline cleanup, and met a guy just that was walking down the Beltline, and we struck up a conversation, and it was somebody that I would have never crossed paths with had I not been there in the moment that day. And just, when you're involved in stuff like that, stay in the moment, be present, because you don't know who you could meet a guy that could connect you to your next big job. Or like, I stay in touch with my professors because on occasion they'll say, hey, can you come speak to my class? Like, I have a principles of accounting professor that I absolutely love. She is my reason for, outside of a few others, but she was my motivator in undergrad. And I stay in touch with her, and every once in a while I'll come and talk to her class and just drum up the motivation to want to pursue accounting. Because in undergrad, that first principles 1 and 2 class is where it starts. That's where the energy starts, because once you get to undergrad and you're a junior, it's almost like that window is closing for you to be able to make those network decisions and be able to recruit and take full advantage of that recruiting cycle. So I try to do my best to give back to those who gave to me in my in my recruiting cycle and in my education. And I think that's really important. And just remaining in the community, give back where you can, and take advantage of any of those opportunities that you're given, whether it be a 5K, a Beltline cleanup, anything that's giving back to your school or your professors, or just along those same lines.
I definitely do agree with that. And for those who will be coming alum soon, get involved with Georgia State Alumni Association. And if we have any MBA students on the call, we have the National Black MBA, you have the Hispanic MBA Association, NSBE. Get involved with those different associations so you can continue to network, find out about different classes that they're offering. And I always feel that the best way to learn is to teach someone else, and go volunteer at the schools, whether it is at high school level, middle school level. That is definitely a great way to give back to community and to stay involved. So for some of the GSU alums that we have on the call on today, how was your degree perceived when you were interviewing for your job? Josiah, we'll start with you.
Yeah. Interestingly enough, my transition into Koch was a bit non-traditional, because I started my career actually as an intern, and they knew that I was still in the middle of getting my degree. And I think one of the best things about working for an organization like Koch is the fact that they care more about what you bring to the table than just the degree. The degree proves that, hey, you've committed to something for a certain number of years. But I have to say, of all the classes that I just loved in undergrad, I got the most experience through the projects, through the interactions that I've been a part of. And so, quite frankly, it was more about how can Josiah contribute? And those were the types of questions that I was asked, much less about what was your GPA? What did this look like? Those have their place, absolutely. But certainly I've been fortunate in my career to be part of an organization, and I'd like to say that's becoming part of the norm as the future of work is starting to change, that it's more about what is your aptitude to grow? Are you motivated to contribute and bring your skills and talents beyond just what you learn in a book? Are you open to applying that? Can you be collaborative? What's your likelihood of challenging ideas that maybe you don't agree with, or building capability in others? Those things I found to be of much higher value than just, did you get your degree? What did it look like here? Last thing on that, my VP has a degree in English. Never would have thought, and that's more common than I would have ever imagined. But more often I'm finding people who got a degree in one area, 20 years down the line, are doing very, very different things.
Right.
And it's okay when you think of the different level of expertise and experience and the red thread that they're able to draw over their career in terms of their falling in love with writing that led to them wanting to share it, and storytelling, and then working with people, and how that translated to projects, and how they've ended up as a seasoned HR professional from what would have been perceived to have no relation. I think it's important to see that where you start is not always where you finish, and that's okay. It gives you an interesting journey and a story to tell at the end of the day.
Great feedback. Did anyone else want to add to that? Jamika, I saw you on mute.
I'm piggyback off of him, off of Josiah, and just say that I absolutely think that, obviously, Georgia State is a great university. So I think that, that probably helps a lot. But to piggyback off of what he was saying, I absolutely agree, because I'm an accountant, but now I'm in HR. So, obviously my degree does not really help me in this aspect of it. But one of the things I wanted to kind of circle back on from the very beginning of the conversation, I think the question was about what you wish you knew, or something along those lines. And I just wanted to say to students, and I don't know, I think I could speak for everyone here on the panel, but be deliberate and be confident, and be sure of what your path is and what you want to do. I think just from my observation of people who are like unsure, just unsure of where they want to work, unsure of what they want to work in, unsure of what major, you can tell. I mean, you can tell, now. And it kind of follows them. So people say, oh, people change their majors all the time. And I always say, I never changed my major, ever. So, I mean, it really makes a difference. And I think that comes within yourself. You have to really stop, get to know yourself, think about what you really enjoy, think about what you really want to do, what lifestyle you want to live, what you want, and then make a plan and a path to follow that. Because if you're just kind of going with the flow and going with the wind, then, you're going to be all over the place. Your resume is not going to look great. And at the end of the day, you probably will end up somewhere that you don't really want to work in, or was not your original career path. And so even though I'm in HR, this was a decision that, as I started, I always helped with recruiting after I graduated. So I always went back and participated any way I could in any of the recruiting events. And so the more I started to do it, I was like, wow, I really love this. I never realized that when I was a student, I was always, helpful to people and students and everybody else, but I never realized that would be something. And so I tried to switch at some bigger firms, and they was like, no, absolutely not. You got to stay, because I'm a tax accountant. So they're like, nope, absolutely not. You have to stay doing what you're doing. And so just coincidentally, I got the opportunity here, and it was all about because of my speaking up. So when somebody left, I called our director. I'm like, don't interview anybody before you talk to me, because this is something I want to do. And because I had been trying to do it, it was just fitting. But even me knowing that, because you're not going to stay the same person that you are when you were 20, whatever you were. So, your passions will grow and deepen in other areas. I'm also the diversity, equity, and inclusion lead for our firm. And so even that, I mean, it's things that will transpire that you will never imagine. But you have to know yourself, and you have to really know what it is you want to do and what that path is you're trying to take. And it might change, and that doesn't mean that that's a bad thing. But as long as it's growing and changing for what you're growing in, then it's okay. But if you're just all over the place, then that makes it a little harder for you. So I just wanted to circle back with that. And then also circling back to just what Josiah was saying also about like, a few things he mentioned was just really triggering for me of number one, like be yourself. So that goes to, I wanted to say that when you were asking about professionalism, just be yourself, but also understand that, you don't want to say that people judge you, but everybody judges people. And, like just put your best self first. And, it's a common norm that professionalism means, clean, neat, tidy, prompt, just all of those things. It's a norm, it's I don't want to call it a judgment, but it's a norm, and it's factual. So just making sure that you're able to do all those things, but be yourself, because you never want to end up in a situation where you're uncomfortable where you work at, because it makes it so hard to work there for a long time. So if you be yourself and you can just go to work, and you don't have to, obviously being diversity in a diversity lead, but you don't want to put on somebody else every day that you go to work just to have a job, and then you're miserable because you can't fit in. So, be yourself. And if the culture of that place does not fit for you, it's okay to leave because of that. But, ultimately, if you go in being somebody else, then it's going to be hard for you to find that home for you, because when they're interviewing you, they don't know who you really are. They're just going on what you're showing them. So if you're showing them not your genuine self, it's going to be hard. So I really live by that of just like, I'm just going to be myself. If you don't like it, I don't have to be here, but I'm not going to be uncomfortable all day, just to have a job. So those are just a few of the things that I just wanted to touch on before we ended today. But I absolutely love it. The last thing I was going to say really quickly is just the extracurricular activities. This panel is an example of what you could do. Obviously, we're not here recruiting, so it's not gaining necessarily us anything if you think about it in some of these positions that we're in. But just to give back and just to be able to network and meet people like Kareem and Josiah and Akila and Sarah is a wonderful opportunity that I really cherish and appreciate. So being able to participate in different things like this is definitely something that goes a long way.
Great feedback, great feedback. We have an awesome group of panelists today. I hope everyone is really enjoying it. And I heard Jamaica speak about transitioning or either going to another job or pivoting. So I would like to hear from Kareem or either Sarah, some tips on transitioning to another career or either pivoting once you land what you thought maybe was your dream job at a particular company. How do you pivot and probably transition to say from HR to technology?
So that's a good question. So clearly, I graduated last year, so I'm still as an analyst, a technology analyst, and I'm more so on the implementation side of projects. Now, as I do this, and I can already get the notions that, I don't know if this is exactly where I want to be, but I want to be in technology. So I began doing my research, especially at Georgia State. I do know they have a digital transformation master's program. And I've always kind of wanted to be on the side of, let me get you, the client, to where you want to be. Let's innovate. Let's think of the big picture, right? I know that's always something that I wanted to do. So as I sit on the technical side of things, I plan to transition to the side that gets them to the technical side. How I plan to do that will be building my certifications. As I mentioned, I do think I'd like to be preparing to go back to Georgia State for the master's program in digital transformation. But I think going back to what Jamaica was saying and a few of the other members were saying, just really take that inventory. Like, what do I want to do? Where do I want to be? This is my life. Yes, I have this job and I'm in this role, but do I see myself here? And if you feel like you don't, it's okay to start switching it up. It's okay to, you know what, let me try that. As long as within context of your ultimate vision, you can switch things up a little bit. And personally, I haven't made the transition yet, but I am taking an inventory of where I want to be, the things that I like to do, and the things I don't really like to do that much. And from that conversation with myself, I kind of start making a plan. And then that leads me possibly back to Georgia State.
Great. Well, we'll welcome you back. Sarah, what about you? You have any feedback?
Yeah, Kareem said it so nicely. It's you know, at KPMG we have what we call rotations. So if I've always been interested in forensics, but I knew that I wanted to secure my base knowledge in audit before I pursue forensics, because that would make me a better team member on a forensic audit team. So I'm building my base, but I've also let it be known that this is where my interest is. This is what sparks me. Or like, I like the technology side. When I worked in industry before I went back to school, I worked for a software company. I loved the implementation. So I got to write a couple of the manuals for our implementation of new software. So I have some background in that. It's all about, yes, knowing yourself, doing that personal inventory of where you want to be, even if it changes a few times, or you say, okay, this is what my base is, but I would love to understand more of this. And that's where like building that network of people and just asking questions of people who are in those fields, that like, what is your day-to-day, you know, work life? What is the topic matter that gets you going? What do you like about it? What do you dislike? If I was to pursue that, how would I go about doing it? And KPMG does a good job. I think that it was touched on also that you don't want to be in a culture that you don't want to be in. And I think what set the tone for me with KPMG and actually accepting my offer with them was, it really is all about the people. You know, if I'm going to work 60 hours a week in front of my computer, I want to like the person I'm, you know, through technology sitting next to, right? So, and if you don't feel comfortable being yourself, don't wear a mask all day. And let it be known, I'm in a position where, you know, I'm a first year audit associate going into my second year. I have let my mentors and my trainers know, like, this is where I want to kind of lean towards. This is where I want to move to. And I feel like that is allowed where I am. They offer you rotations. They offer you opportunities to transition out of the fields you're in to experience other roles. And as long as you're making it known what you want to do and where you want to be, when the opportunity comes up, they're going to make it happen for you. But if you don't make it known, how are they going to offer you those opportunities? And for sure, like, as you're recruiting, I can't even tell you how many interviews I went on, how many people I talked to. And it really is, everyone will just say it's all about the people. It really is. I was just kind of overwhelmed with the warmth of the people that I interacted with, and it just solidified my decision. So it's kind of when you know, but don't ever be afraid to, you know, if you're not comfortable, there's a million firms out there. Get yourself out there and be somewhere you want to be, and don't be afraid of it, you know. So I think everybody's kind of putting it out there so well. those opportunities are there, but if they don't know you want those opportunities, they're not going to present them to you. So just make sure you are putting your real self out there.
I think these have been some great comments that's been going forth. And considering the new climate that we're in, I know every time we log on to the internet or either we look at news and different snippets, we are in presently the pandemic and we're trying to pivot and we're trying to transition. I would like to hear from anyone on our panel, how has the present climate that we are in change your strategy and your goals and trying to transition and move within your career? Has the pandemic affected it at all, or is it just still business as usual? Akilah, what about you?
Yeah, I can go ahead and take this one. So for me, it's changed it a bit, but not so much. So I'm an introvert, like you probably can't tell because I'm talking to people right now, but I'm very much introverted. And this job, actually, it being a pandemic, has helped me to be more extroverted because, like Sarah was saying, I interned in person, but my job was completely remote. So I'm used to, talking to people. I know how to talk. I know how to charm. I know how to, talk my way into things, figure things out, ask good questions. But virtually, I was just kind of like, how do I do this? Like, how do I just talk to people through a computer? It was actually really hard for me initially, but then I realized I need to put myself out there. Like, so-and-so doesn't know I want to talk to them. Like, they probably don't even know I work at Accenture. So let me put some time on their calendar and be like, hey, virtual coffee chat, just want to introduce myself and talk to them. And this is another point that I wanted to add on to pivoting within your career. Initially, I was a technology analyst, but now I'm a security analyst. And I did so through networking and through talking to people and learning the positions that other people were in. And we're like, hey, like, I feel like I want to do that. How did you go about doing that, and how could I get there? So really putting yourself out there, and I really want to drive the point of networking, because your net worth is really what your network is. If you know somebody who can get you somewhere where you want to go, put yourself out there and talk to them, pick their brain, get to know them, understand them. So virtually, don't be afraid to put time on people's calendars. Be mindful of the time of somebody's calendar. Don't overbook them, but don't be afraid to put yourself out there and introduce yourself to somebody if you know that they have information that you're looking for.
Great. Jamika, did you have a comment? I saw you were unmuted previously.
Yeah, I was just going to add on to that, saying that the pandemic kind of changed me, and I don't think it was because of the pandemic, but I'm transitioning again soon. So it's funny that, that's one of the questions. So I've transitioned a bit, but it's been very intentional, and it's been after long periods of time of really mastering those areas and understanding what I wanted next. So I started as an auditor, actually, with RSM. And after a couple of years of doing audit, I was like, I just want to go back to tax. That was my original passion and plan. And I was like, yeah, audit is nice. It taught me a lot, but it didn't fit my personality and my preferences. Okay. And so I've been in tax ever since, until I just recently switched over last year into HR. But being in HR has changed and evolved itself. So now I'm kind of transitioning into a role that's not even really created. We don't even really have this role, but I do all the onboarding and new hire trainings. I mentioned the DEI, and then also going back and being more of a tax coordinator. So still keeping my roots in tax and helping a lot of different things in the tax department. And so, as I mentioned, this role does not exist, but as you start to work and do things and always raise your hand within where you work at, other doors will open up that you can decide from there. Is this something I want to do? Or is it, not something I want to do? And so for that reason, I'll still be kind of HR, but not fully. But that's that's one of the things that is also transitioning. As far as the pandemic, I've worked from home here and there a couple times throughout my whole entire career. But the pandemic really just changed a lot of things for me personally, where I was like, I love seeing everybody in the office, but I don't want to go back. So I was the first one to go remote because I have children and the schools closed first. And so obviously I was one of the first ones that had to be remote. So I've been remote for like 2 years. Well, is it 2 years? 2020, 2020,
Oh.
yeah. So I've been in this situation, in this space so long that it has revealed something to me that I didn't know that I needed. And that was to be at home. I focus better. I work longer, which it might not be a good thing, but for me it is, because I can get more work done that I need to, and I can take the time that I need away from work when I need to. And so, it's really even pushing and evolving our firm, because before the pandemic, we didn't have remote workers, and it's been something that, has to be pushed. And so, I'm kind of like that pioneer where, it's open doors for other people to be able to work remote maybe too. Although, it's still not something that we want to pivot to and make part of our overall culture, but there are more acceptances of those situations. And so the pandemic really, like, I just sat back and I'm like, how have I been living like this? Because having a family and being in public accounting, it's tough. It's a lot of hustle and bustle and, on the go and here and there. And even when I was an auditor, same thing. It was going to this client, going to that client. And so now, it's really just made me slow down and made me say, okay, now this is another part of me changing and growing. And I want to live till I'm older. So, I have to do this for me. And you have to be able to, speak on those things and push what you want. Now, I do still go in the office when I need to. So I'm open to that. If you need me in the office, if we have a meeting, if we have an event, if I have a new hire, I go into the office. But if you don't need me here, then I don't want to be here. Not because I don't like you guys. I just don't want to be here. So the pandemic in that way has transitioned my job even so, because now I have to communicate with people virtually on a regular basis now, especially with the days I'm not in the office. So it's been a change, but I think that overall, if you can master it, it can work out really good. And some people, they know I do not do any work when I'm at home. I'm not going to work from home. So be able to realize that also. Don't go looking for a work from home job, if you can't do online classes, or something like that. So that was all I was going to add.
Well, this ends our session for today, Adulting 101, the real world. I hope that everyone on the workshop has really enjoyed the session on today. And I would like to put in a plug for our Career Advancement Center. If you need any additional help or tips in pivoting, we welcome you to reach out to our counselors, our career counselors, and our career coaches. And if you need to check in for the session today, to go ahead and drop your email into the session, and we will manually check you in. We'll stay online for a couple of minutes after that. I would definitely like to thank my panelists for their invaluable tips and information on today. Kareem and Jamaica and Josiah, Sarah and Akila, you have provided us with a wealth of information, and I thank you so much on today.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thanks,
Yeah, thank you for having
everyone.
us.
And we'll see you soon for another event coming from the Career Advancement Center. Have a good day, everyone.
All right. Bye, y'all.
Bye, guys.